The long-awaited battle between the QD OLEDs are finally here. The Samsung S95B versus the Sony A95K. To begin, let's kick things off with a blind test. Can you tell me which TV is which? I would love to know. I will reveal the answer in just a moment, but first I gotta tell you about these two TVs and really the differences and similarities between them. The biggest elephant in the room with these two TVs is the massive price difference. If you are purchasing the Sony A95K over the S95B, you'll be paying at least $1,000 or more depending on what size you get. And as a reminder, I will be putting the links for both of these TVs in the description below. If you're using these links to buy anything at all, it will help out the channel as they are affiliate links. So thank you for using them. Now back on the topic of price, whether or not you feel like that price tag is warranted or not, what are the significant advantages that the A95K has over the S95B? Well, first, let's start with build quality. Build quality is definitely not the S95B's strong suit. While it does look really good out of the box, and I do appreciate that thin look, in terms of handling the TV, it makes you a bit nervous when you are putting the stand on that something is going to go wrong with the TV. It feels flimsy and it just feels like if you make the wrong move with the TV, you're going to mess it up. The assembly of the S95B was one of the more nerve-wracking experiences that I've had in putting together a TV. There's also a chance that your panel can be slightly bent out of the box on the S95B. My 55-inch wasn't bent at all, while my 65-inch did have a slight bend at the top. The Sony A95K, on the other hand, won't experience any build quality issues. If I had to guess, I think this is just going to be a flawless experience for most people. Putting the stand on the TV doesn't require the TV to be laid down at all. You can actually just build the stand and then place the stand on top of it. I really love this design decision by Sony, and I think this takes a lot of the nerve out of setting up a TV stand. So when it comes to that build quality advantage, it's definitely going to Sony. I do want to note though, for the A95K, you want to look at the dimensions of the stand itself before you look and purchase this TV, because it may be a situation where your stand or media cabinet that you're putting it on isn't long enough to support the stand of the A95K. So that may be something you want to keep your eye on. Now, in terms of the rest of the build quality, I think that you do have a decent stand in the S95B. It does slightly tilt a little bit, but not as much as the A95K. The A95K will tilt quite a bit, and you could probably see by this video right now where the A95K is on your left. It is leaning back a little bit, which may look like I'm filming at an angle. That is not the case. That is just because the TV is slightly leaning back. So if you were wondering why the TVs aren't quite lining up, or one looks like it's shot at an angle, that is why. Now, the A95K, when it comes to like the premium design of it, that definitely wins my award for the premium look. It really looks like the TV is shooting out of the table. And I think that is such a cool design. And I love the way that you have the option to put it either from the front or from the back. Both options look really great. Now, when it comes to the actual image quality of these two TVs, that is a different discussion all in its own. I will say that in these default modes, the TVs are really close. They will look identical most of the time, though you will run into content where some of the time, the TV on the left, the A95K, will look like the brighter TV. And you'll have some situations where the S95B, the TV on the right, will look like the brighter TV. It is very content dependent, and I've seen this change back and forth. I feel like this is a processing difference, and you'll see this in regular content. If you're really picky about your colors and you're somebody who is looking for accuracy out of the box, the A95K is the one to go with. There are some color differences with both of these TVs. The Sony A95K tends to have a little bit more red in the skin tones, while the S95B doesn't have this unless you switch it into the BT 2020 color space mode. If you do that, however, though, you will see that some of the colors may look a little oversaturated for your taste. So it really depends on the type of person that you are. if you have these two side by side and you end up seeing significant color differences. The culprit of that is the lack of auto selection for the color space. Now, this has been something that hasn't worked on Samsung TVs correctly for years now. The auto does not actually auto select. So you're going to have to manually pick the color space that you want to watch your TV in. For a more accurate look, you're going to want to stay in the DCI P3 color space. For somebody who wants a little bit more punch and a little bit more impact to your HDR experience, try the BT2020 color space. Although this is not an accurate mode, I do think it still looks natural enough to watch, and I do appreciate the extra punch that you get out of the TV. Although I have to stress for this demonstration, we are using the DCI P3 color space because that is the default option when you reset the Filmmaker mode, and I wanted to show you what you get out of the box with both TVs. If there's enough people requesting it, I will do a separate side-by-side with some of the more preference-based options comparing the two things on where you can go with these TVs. However, for this demonstration, I wanted to show you what you get out of the box with no tweaks. And that reminds me, if you guys are enjoying this side-by-side presentation or you find it helpful, could you please hit the like button and subscribe button? It really helps get this video out to more people. I really appreciate if you guys could do that. Thank you guys so much. Now to the biggest question of all. If you're a consumer, can you justify getting the A95K over the S95B? Well, I think the answer to that is complicated, and it depends on who you are and what you like in your TV quality. I personally couldn't justify spending $1,100 more for the A95K when they are so similar. Does that mean that the S95B is better than the A95K? No, it doesn't. I think that the A95K is the better TV overall. But it's close. It's very close. There is a reason to get the A95K for a lot of people. That build quality, the picture quality advantages, there are things that make me like the A95K better. Another one of those things I have mentioned with the A80J, and that is the reality creation. Both of these TVs out of the box look very sharp and very clear. To be honest with you, they are identical in that area unless you use reality creation to add more clarity to the picture on the Sony. Now, Samsung doesn't have an equivalent setting to this, so I do give that advantage to the Sony. When it comes to the brightness overall of this TV, there are going to be moments where the A95K looks like the brighter TV, and then there's also going to be moments where the S95B looks like the brighter TV, when you're talking about custom versus Filmmaker mode. When we're talking about game mode, that is an entirely different discussion. You're talking about the A95K being the slightly dimmer TV to the S95B in its default game mode. That is on gradation preferred for the tone mapping. If you change the tone mapping to brightness preferred, then you are getting very close to what the S95B looks like in terms of the game mode, with contrast enhancer off on both. You are feeling like they are close, but the S95B still edges it out as the brighter TV. Now, it's not a huge gap though, and I do think that these TVs are similar in how they tone map, so I love the game mode for both of them. I've been on record saying that the S95B has the best looking game mode, and I still stand by that, but the A95K is also sharing that because it's basically the same, and I think that both of these just knock it out of the park in terms of the image quality for game mode. You do get a slight advantage on the Sony by using reality creation. Again, I do feel like this is kind of an X factor for Sony when it comes to their TVs. The Sony also has another trick up its sleeve in game mode, being able to manipulate the video signal and being able to force HDR if that's something that you are into. You do have that option. You do have that option to force HLG in SDR games if that's something that you want to do. I personally think this adds a lot of artifacts to the image, and it's not something I typically recommend. I also think that the contrast enhancer that Sony offers you is much better than the Samsung's contrast enhancer. It doesn't degrade the image quality as much in my opinion, and really honestly, I think it looks great on medium, and it is one of my preferred settings for game mode. So check out that contrast enhancer on medium and see if you like that look. So while the Sony and Samsung look fairly similar in game mode, I do think the Sony gives you more flexibility and it gives you more options available to you to make the Sony look like the best image quality for game mode. However, the A95K is lacking a lot of gaming features that the S95B has. So that is something that will maybe be a difference maker for a lot of people. In terms of the advantages you get with the S95B in game mode, you do get the game bar. You do have the ability to switch on VRR and not worry about having to switch into another mode like you do with the Sony in order to use VRR. So that is something that is really nice that is at your disposal there. You also have the Game Motion Plus option, which is going to give you a better motion in those 30 FPS games, which I absolutely love and I recommend everybody try out if they have a Samsung TV and they game in 30 FPS. The Samsung also has a lower input lag overall than the Sony, and when it comes to the actual functionality of the HDMI 2.1, you have 4 available to you on the TV, while on the Sony you only have 2, which one is being shared with the eARC port, so you have to keep those things in mind. These next 2 things are going to be something mainly just for PC users, but you have the ability to do 1440p on the Samsung S95B, but on the A95K, it doesn't look like you have that option. And on the A95K, you are only capable of 4K 120Hz, while on the S95B, you can output 4K at 144Hz. The Samsung also has the ability to do cloud gaming with the Samsung Game Hub. I think this feature is really cool, and I was able to enjoy my Xbox Game Pass games. While I wouldn't recommend playing any super competitive games on this TV in the Game Hub, I think playing something like Slay the Spire, I had no issue at all playing a casual game like that. Now, I will do a totally separate gaming side-by-side for these 2 TVs so we can get in-depth about everything. I'm really looking forward to that. When it comes to the sound quality of these TVs, both of them excel greatly. Both of them feature a 60-watt speaker system that has inbuilt subwoofers as well, and they both have some pretty good bass behind it. I was pretty impressed with both of these speakers, though I will give the advantage to the A95K. I just felt at higher volumes it sounded better. So this is something that you want to use for your movie watching experience, you can do so. And I don't think you'll be able to get better sound quality than the inbuilt speakers unless you go with a soundbar that's at least $300 or more. Honestly, you could get away with watching movies and TV on these speakers. But with the A95K, keep in mind you can't really use a soundbar with it unless you find a hack or workaround like I talked about in the first impressions of the A95K video that I did, because the low profile stand design will block the screen. On the S95B, on the other hand, you can use a soundbar with this as it will not block the screen. The next thing I want to talk about is using this TV while watching movies. It does have significant advantages over the S95B. You do have the inclusion of Dolby Vision, which a lot of people want in their TV, though I do not feel like this is a reason to pick a TV, as the differences aren't as significant as one would hope. I also felt that with movie content in the Filmmaker mode for the S95B and in custom mode for the A95K, the A95K gave me the more impactful HDR experience, and I felt like the TV was brighter overall when talking about the A95K, when I'm talking about movies specifically. I have to specify that because the A95K is not actually the brighter TV when pushed to the max. It's only in this custom setting versus Filmmaker mode on the default values. When you push these TVs to their maximum abilities, the S95B is the brightest TV overall, though it is not by a huge margin. The A95K is pretty bright on its own. Now, when it comes to motion, I'm not the best person to speak on this, but I do think that the Sony TVs are better when it comes to this. The motion overall feels smoother, and I have had less instances where I noticed judder on the Sony TVs. The Samsung TVs have a little bit of judder, and to get rid of it, you do introduce a little bit of soap opera effect, which personally I don't mind that much, but some people may not like that, so the Sony TV gets the win for the motion. When it comes to the actual on-screen elements and the navigation and the menu system, the advantage goes to the A95K clearly. Accessing the menus in the S95B isn't hard, and it is pretty snappy and quick, but when it comes to switching inputs, it is kind of troublesome and you have to jump through a few hoops to do so. Yes, you can set it up to be quicker, but a dedicated input button is clearly the better option. The other thing I have to mention is that the update schedule with the TVs is going to be more frequent on the Samsung. For better or worse, there are more updates on the Samsung TVs, and they will change picture quality. They are not afraid to do that. This has led to some frustration from users over the past on taking away things that they liked. I do agree that the S95B is a better TV overall from the day that it launched with the newest updates, but a lot of people have argued that they don't like it as much because some of the modes that they liked and loved have been changed. Sony, on the other hand, is very subtle with their updates, and they will only release an update if they think that it adds to the functionality of the TV, and they rarely change the picture quality of these settings, though the updates are less frequent. I think if you're somebody who plays games on occasion and watch mostly movies, the A95K is a really great TV, and it is the better TV than the S95B. However, if you're somebody who's mainly a gamer and you only watch movies sometimes, I think the S95B is the better option for you. It's not only more affordable, but it does have the more impactful game mode and more features going for it in the game mode. Though the Sony does have a really good game mode itself, virtually identical to the S95B, but it does lack some gaming features. So after watching TVs side by side and playing games on these two TVs side by side, I have come to the conclusion that the best TV for movie watching and TV shows is the Sony A95K. But the best TV for gaming is going to be the Samsung S95B. I do feel like the extra gaming features gives it a significant advantage over the Sony A95K, and the limitations of the Sony A95K may frustrate some gamers. With that said, the A95K is very capable of gaming. It's just right under the S95B, and the S95B is just right under the A95K for movies. So really, it's so close, and you can't go wrong picking either TV. So that's really where I'm at with these two TVs. They're both great, and QD OLED technology is great. And that's not a surprise to me because it is the newer and more superior OLED technology over what the LG OLED is capable of. And while I do think that the S95B and A95K are great, I think it only really fills a need for the people that can only go with 55 or 65 inch TVs. If you can fit a 77 or 83 inch TV, I do think that would be the better route to go, and you skip the QD OLED. Or you just wait and you hopefully get the rumored 77 inch QD OLED that could be coming next year. That's also a really great option. Alright, so if you have any requests for the S95B versus A95K, any questions at all, tell me in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have on my live stream, so stop by those. If you're interested, find the community tab of my YouTube channel. I'll have all the information there, and I also post TV deals regularly there. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for future content. If you want to see other comparisons involving the A95K or S95B, check out the videos above right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.